Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today I'm talking to you about Hellper. So as you guys know, I brought this up recently on the podcast. This is a webtoon that I've been reading here and there, and just recently this week, binged the heck out of it. It was so good. I was like 100 and something chapters behind. I was like, yeah, I'll just read every now and then. And boy, like, just kept getting hooked and I couldn't put it down. And so, like, I even paused reading other stuff that I'm doing right now just to get all of this in. And holy crap, man, what a ride it was. So let's get into it, man. This is written and drawn by Sak. Again, it's a webtoon, and it's published on the webtoon app here in English. And it ran originally in October 2011, ended June of 2015 with 188 chapters. The only unfortunate thing I have to say is this is only season 1. He's planning 3 seasons. The second one, I believe, is already completed. So if we want to read season 2 onward, it's going to have to be somewhere else, which is what I plan on doing. But yeah, main premise here with Hellper is we got our main character, Gwangnam Jang. He is the leader of a group called Kilberos. In the eyes of the general public, that's a delinquent group. However, he has this strong sense of justice in him. He wants to be a good guy. And so he doesn't want to see it as a delinquent group, but more as like a embodiment of justice, essentially. So he has these people doing like bodyguard services for like local businesses, keeping students in check at school. Because again, delinquents. Therefore, this is all like, set in like high school and like shortly after a high school setting. To keep themselves afloat financially, they decide to sell merchandise of Kilberos, which is the emblem. It's going to be a dog with 3 fangs protruding out, and then it varies based on rank. The cool thing too is Sak actually has a merch line. If you just look up Kilberos on Google, you'll get like, I think the first or second link will be his shop, and then you could just get clothes there, which is pretty cool. And so that's the main premise with our boy here. And unfortunately, when he wakes up in chapter 1, he's dead. He was riding his bike and he got a head-on collision with like a dumpster truck or something. And now he's dead. And he's being explained the rules of the underworld to him, thinking he's in heaven, but shortly realizing he is actually in hell. And each person that dies gets 1 ticket on their wristband. And if you collect 100, then you're able to reincarnate into heaven. Or you're able to go to heaven and eventually get reincarnated. So that's his goal. He kind of wants to get back because not only did he leave his friends and his group, but he also left his girlfriend alone. And so he wants nothing more than to get back to her by any means necessary. And that's the main premise. This thing rocks, dude. It's awesome. Whenever I bring up webtoons to people that, are unfamiliar, I always tell them like, well, yeah, the vertical scrolling is the big key. You're meant to read this on the go on your phone. And that pushes some people away, but you can really do a lot with it. This webtoon does something different, which was nice. And unfortunately, it wasn't there all the time. Scrolling vertically, of course, you're going to be seeing long strips. Instead of like 2-page spreads, it's going to be a long strip of some sequence that's really cool. And Sak here likes to add a little note that says, oh, speed up or slow down when you're on this part. So that's pretty fun. You can easily get hooked into reading this because the action is freaking awesome. It's like just shonen maxing so hard that every fight is cool and flashy in a very unique way. And because they're all ghosts, there's so many unique abilities going on. With our main guy here, Jang, for example, loves motorcycles. So what does he do in his first fight? He's like, okay, let's get some throttles going. And he does what's called external transformations and turns his arms with some motorcycle engines so that way he can increase his power and speed. And it's like, it's so cool. And then the guy he's fighting can hide in his hat. And there's the Reapers, and they have varying levels of unique attacks, and one of them uses smoke, and oh man, that guy is freaking cool, man. A lot of other crazy factions, like goblins, are showing up. There's the brutal dead, and there's like just so much in this world to dive into. Like it's really easy to just keep scrolling to the next chapter. Sack does a great job of, when the stakes are high and like you're totally invested, it's a really good cliffhanger and you have to jump back in. So that's been the great benefit of being able to read it now and not weekly, is like I could just binge this whole thing and enjoy it in one sitting. And also, like, the biggest takeaway for me, aside from the action, is his art style. It's so good, man. Just the way he's able to convey emotions, the settings, and just the expressions that Jang has throughout his journey in Hell. It's really, really good. And I also like the freedom that webtoons get, right? So because it's digitized, it's going to be in color. And what I like about Hellper here is that color is used to highlight specific things with the narrative and the world. So everything essentially is in black and white, but then he'll have some highlights in color. So like for Jang, for example, he's wearing an all black suit and he's got red on him. The red indicates that he is just a low level ghost that just showed up. So as far as the hierarchy of power, he should be on the bottom. And even though you get stronger with the more tickets you collect from other ghosts, you're essentially never supposed to be on par with Reapers, which are in the blue. And under them are the goblins, which are yellow. And then there's an even higher plane, which is purple. And then we get into some other crazy stuff where white gets introduced. That was really cool because white is so powerful. It's literally bleaching the color out. Therefore, like, the rules don't exist. It just helps make the art more unique than it already is. It's very striking on its own, but by having it be this minimalist style, it's just, great. I will say there are times where it gets a little sloppy almost, where there's so much happening and there's a lot of action lines that it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. And that's a little unfortunate. And that also kind of ties in with the writing in this webtoon. I like the writing a lot. Like, the story that Jang is going through is great. And that's only half of it. The other half of the story is back in Earth with Kilberos and the aftermath of his death. It was such a huge impact. And then seeing this vacuum of power there. And there's all these executives in Kilberos and like the tensions going on in there. The Earth side has a lot of delinquent stuff going on, and as you guys know, it's one of my favorite genres ever, so I'm already hooked over there too. But the biggest problem, I would say, is Sack here is so passionate and ambitious with this story that there are times where he gets lost in the sauce. And what I mean is there's just too much going on in such a short amount of time that you're just left lost. And I kept seeing that a lot in the comments during those moments where I'm like, man, there's so much going on. This is tough. And then, of course, like, two of those comments are going to be like, is anybody else lost or is it just me? Like, and unfortunately, the handicap for this series is that it's Korean, and Korean names are kind of hard for us to pronounce, right? Very easy to get lost in all these new characters being introduced on the Kilberos side, where you're like, oh man, there's nothing easy like Adonis. Like, they all have a lot of Korean heavy names. So, but I'm sure when this was coming out over there in Korea, like, there was no problem at all. I just feel like we could have slowed it down just a little bit more with introducing everybody. Like, there was plenty of time on both sides, actually, on Hell and Earth, to introduce all these ideas and characters, especially if he's planning for 3 seasons. And I took a quick glimpse at the length of season 2, and it is massive. So I feel like we could have taken our time. I'm not going to say much about where the story ends up by the end of season 1. I will say at first I was off put by it because it felt like we were just getting away from the simplicity of the series. That was a real charm for it, especially with Jang, just because of his light personality and, you know, his demeanor and his morals really set him above the rest, both on Hell and on Earth. You know, he's very much a shonen main character, very similar to Luffy. You know, yeah, you can have fun and joke and all that stuff, but when it's time to get serious, he's going to be there for you no matter what. Like, just having that there and like, yeah, this man can do anything. And then when he's actually put into a real challenge with real opponents, it's like, oh my gosh, like we have to get really serious. And just seeing like all the sacrifices he's willing to make for people, both long-term and strangers he just met. You know, it's really awesome to see this kind of character, especially in this world and the setting of how like everything is very depressing and archaic. And, you know, he's like this hope of light essentially for a lot of characters. Seeing it go into the direction it did, it was off-putting and I kind of wasn't liking it, but I could see like bigger picture wise, we're going to be telling a very different story in season 2. And I think that's okay because everything leading up to the big decisions felt right for Jang's story, which is both hopeful and tragic at the same time. If the last page was going to be the last page of season 1, I think I would have been okay with that and still would have said that, yeah, this is very worth your time. Go read it now. I'm looking forward to season 2. I want to see more of what we can do. The fact that we can get a whole new slew of characters and just have Sak go crazy with his designs. I'm there for it, man. I want to see more of this crazy world that we have. The crazy powers, like in the fights. Like, this is one of the few series that I would point to and say, if you want to get into webtoons, this is it. You know, get this, get Tower, get Lookism, many other series I've read, part of like the Super String universe. Like, this is up there for me. And I was delightfully surprised and glad that I hopped on when I just randomly found it on the recommendation page. So that's all I have to say today, guys, for Hellper Season 1. Have you checked it out? Would love to hear your thoughts. You can send us emails, unversepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we'll bring those up on future episodes. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you next time.